Well, at the plant, at the bleachery, there was 4 people that could arrange for your job. And the mayor and the city manager recommended that Lowenstein didn't pay what they started to pay here, and told them that 20 cents an hour would be sufficient, that people would be glad to work for that. Because some of the people around here were working the mills for $6 a week, 60 hours. And the only way that you could get a job in the plant was to contact the mayor, Mr. Boney Johnson, city manager Bill Goodman, Dr. W.G. Stevens, the doctor at the plant that they had hired, and Mr. Ned Marshall is the oil dealer in Rock Hill. And that was about the only way that a person could get a job at the bleacher. And before we had a union at the plant, it was a buddy-buddy system. If the foreman had a buddy, he's the one who got the privilege of the job. And if he was kin to somebody, he'd see that he got a job. And that way, we decided it was so unfair till we should have the representation so that we could choose our own jobs whenever they were vacant.
Now, can you tell me why it was that more high-paid industry didn't come into Rock Hill?
Well, they thought that Rock Hill Printing and Finishing Company would take up all the slack in this part, and they weren't particular about some other company coming in paying more than Bleacher was paying, because they was afraid they'd take the help and that it'd be that they thought that was a reasonable thing according to the economy for things to be paid like they were paid, and they wasn't too anxious for other high-paid industries at that time.
I want you to tell me that again. You say the Chamber of Commerce or whoever it was told Mr. Lowenstein that 20 cents an hour was enough to pay anybody. They didn't want to encourage any more high-pay industry,
Yes.
And why?
Yeah.
Could you do that again for me?
Well, the people in this area, management, were afraid if some company come in and paid more than they did, well, they would usurp their best help.
Got it. Well, she'd have to come and hang it up, though, you see.
Well, at the time that we were organized, the recommendation of the city fathers, I'll say city fathers because it had something to do with the council and everything, recommended that 25 cents per hour was adequate. There was 9 cotton mills in Rock Hill at the time, and people were working in those mills for $6 a week, 60 cents an hour. So they didn't want to interfere with that. But now today and up until last year, there's not a cotton mill in Rock Hill, not a one. Of course, now J.P. Stevens fought the union tooth and nail for years. We tried to organize them and failed, but they were the last plant that closed in Rock Hill. We had the Highland Park, the Victoria, the Arcade, the Helen, and Industrial, and Aragon. I know that that's all them was there, and another small mill that was in Rock Hill at that time. And $6 a week was the wage, and they figured if they didn't want to hurt those industries by letting these people pay 35 cents an hour or something like that, they wanted them to kind of keep in line with other manufacturers in this area. And by the way, Lowenstein, I think they really appreciated that because they were used to paying more where they came from, Rhode Island. And I believe that they would have paid more here if it hadn't been for that. And during the strike, they worked the scab crew. And by the way, we had 3 unions in the plant. 4, really. We had a mechanics union, we had a printers union, we had a engravers union. And all of them didn't support us, not any of them. And so when the people in New York that was organized had the clothing workers, Lowenstein's goods that was scab produced. They refused to cut it and sew it. So they got caught with probably a couple of million yards of cloth that they stored in the plant. It took them from 3 to 5 years to get rid of that cloth after the strike was over. So they had a hard time getting rid of the scab cloth, and it wasn't up to par to what the regular people were producing. So, but that helped some because they wouldn't. And people the scabs that they worked, I've knowed them to come out of the plant with an armful of cloth and throw it over the fence and come by in the car and pick it up. So they didn't make too much by scab labor, I'll tell you that.
Now, you were a country boy. You came out of the country.
Yes, sir.
You came into Rock Hill. Where did you get the idea about union?
After going to work in the plant and seeing the things that were going on within the people, happening to the people in the plant, I thought at one time I wouldn't even think about a union, but after I saw what was happening, you know, and I thought about the benefits that could be gained by people working together and standing together and for their own rights, so it could be a possibility for us.
Now, I was talking to a man the other day who was the son of an owner, and he said that a lot of textile workers thought it was unchristian to join a union.
Well, I'm an elder in the church, and I don't think it's unchristian. You can give them that information.
I want you to say that again, but I don't think it's unchristian to join a union. Say that again.
I don't think it is unchristian to join a union, by no means. I'm in favor of a union, and I'd like to see more of it, to tell you the truth.
I want you to say all that, but to start off by saying, I'm an elder in the church.
All right. I'm an elder in the church, and I can see no way that it would affect being a Christian, being a union member, because you looking out for your rights and the rights of your fellow man.
Where would this guy get this idea? Because he's a pretty prominent man in Charlotte. Where would he get the idea that the workers thought it was unchristian?
I couldn't say, because did he give any reason why he thought it was? Well, I don't think so. My minister didn't talk against it at all. He even come and had meetings with us, and we had a Catholic priest that instructed us in parliamentary procedure, and he backed us in all the everything that we had, all during our struggle with the company. He backed us to the fullest extent.
You were in the bleachery and the dye works, and it was you got a little bit better pay than the people in the cotton mills.
Yes, sir.
I've heard these people called lint heads. How did you feel about them?
Well, we knew that those people that was making those goods was our backbone for service, so we didn't feel bad towards them at all. See, their goods was what we were processing, printing, and dyeing, and so forth. So actually, what we were working so that they would have a job too. So we didn't feel bad about it at all.
Could you talk about your own education?
My education? Yes, sir. I started off on my grandmother's knee with the Bible and the Catechism. I started to school in the first grade at Ebenezer Academy, and I always made my grade, never failed a grade from the time I went to school. I finished grammar school here at Central, and finished high school at Rock Hill High in 1927. And after that, I worked with my dad in a butcher's slaughter for a little over a year, and I met a girl close by, and we were married, and we moved into a small house within 4 blocks of this one. And I didn't have a chance to go to college. I had a $200 scholarship to PC, and I would have had to borrow $1,200 then, back at that time, to go to PC. And I wasn't any way for me to get $1,200, and I was going to work in the kitchen and whatever work I could do at the college, but wasn't any way that I could do that. So I got married, and after I got married, I did the trucking job, and then went to the plant and I stayed there for 1931 to 81.
Now, you had a good bit more education than most of the fellows in the plant. Could you talk about that?
Well, almost 3/4 of the people there were high school graduates, and a few college people. But of course, Lowenstein, Joslin, really, he is Lowenstein's brother-in-law. So he was the one that placed the people where they did. Now, this J.J. Adams that hired me, he was a Clemson graduate, and he went to work there for the same price I did. But he got advanced because he had a college education. He advanced from a laborer to a department supervisor, to inter-department supervisor and assistant plant manager, and then plant manager. That was one thing that you could say for the Lowenstein chain. They advanced people that were of the caliber to be advanced, and they still do. As up till now, they do that. Of course, now Springs has got it now, but up until as long as Lowenstein had it, that's what took place. And my job that I had, I run my job just like that I owned it. I had I never seen a foreman unless he wanted something. And on my stock, I logged cloth in and logged it out, and until they put in
the automatic measure.
yeah, they did that.
Okay.
And I never did put stuff in a computer. I always laid it aside and let the other man put it in, the assistant foreman. And that way, I didn't feel like it. I was over my long time, and I didn't think that I wanted to learn that. But anyway, in 2 months after they put it on computer, New York wired down for them to get me to take inventory to see how the computer was coming out.
Okay, one more thing. When you first started working in the mills, talk about how many colored people were there and what happened.
There were, most of the colored people there then were on the yard crew. They were cleaners and done yard work, picked up stuff, and kept it moving, trucking and so on. And they finally put blacks into the production work. Took them a long time, but they finally did. We didn't have but 4 or 5 blacks in my department, but they did right good work. There wasn't anything wrong with it. But what they did, I thought was as good as most of the whites did.
Okay.
We didn't have only trouble about the blacks. They wanted, when we were holding the election, L. Joslin wanted to be sure that we took the blacks into the Union. He thought that was going to break the people because on account of that whites wouldn't cooperate with him if he insisted on the blacks. But by the way, blacks voted more than according than the whites, so we never had a problem.
Say that again a little more clearly. That Lowenstein how the boss wanted you to separate the blacks and the whites and how it happened. Just tell that story again.
You mean when they were organized?
Yes.
Well, he wanted the union, the vote to include the blacks. And he thought that the whites were so much against the blacks, if he insisted that they took the blacks' vote in the union, that the union would fail because the white people wouldn't vote. He wouldn't vote because the blacks were voting. But it didn't turn out that way.
What happened?
Well, we got the union, and the blacks as good a union members as the white ones too. And by the way, we had a black on the shop committee for several years now. So and we got a Catawba Indian as chairman of the shop committee. I served several years as shop steward in my department. I never lost a case in arbitration. We either settled it in negotiations, arbitration, I won. and it would be.
Now, one more thing. You told me about going to meetings up north. About going to the convention.
Yes, I went to several conventions. I went to one in New York, one in Montreal, one in two in Miami, and I was elected to go in several of the, and we had outstanding people at those conventions we did, and it was all upbuilding for the
Now we just this last week we were up in North Georgia with a bunch of the young textile workers at a training session where they were training shop stewards. Could you talk about the training of shop stewards?
We had people come from the National Union, and we'd have classes with pamphlets and material with explanation and questions that was to be answered and graded by those people. We did a lot of that, but sometimes twice a year or more we did it. It was very educational.
Okay. Anything else, Jamie, that you see?
I want to get a wide shot to show that the weather's changed outside.
Okay. What about you? Questions?
Well, I did want to. I think I should ask that one on camera.
Okay.
But I wanted to again ask on camera. Did it make your union feel good when I assume that the union in New York that refused to cut the scab fabric was the ILG, or one of those unions. When the workers in New York refused to cut and sew scab fabric, how did that make your members feel? Did they feel that they were getting backing from other union members? During the strike, when Lowenstein had scabs making cloth and bleaching it.
Well, we give them a hard time at the gate.
But when he shipped it up north and they wouldn't cut it and sew it, he couldn't get it out on the market.
Well, that was the company's problem. It wasn't ours. As long as they were producing it by scabs, they couldn't sell it, and we were out on the street, and so that was their problem.
But at least both sides were hurting then.
That was their problem. We had.
Do you remember what your dues were?
Sir?
You remember what your dues were?
My duties during the strike?
How much did you have to pay to be a member of the union?
$2 and something, I think, a month. And we had retirement. I tell you, on our retirement, we, after a good many years, when we would get a raise negotiated, we would put, say, 5 cents or 7 cents an hour of that raise into a retirement fund. And the bleacher had a representative on it, and the union had a representative on it. And it don't amount to much because we didn't put much in it. Mine's $89 and something, I think. I would even pay my light bill. But anyway, it's $89. But if we'd have got the money, we wouldn't even had that. So.
Okay. Thank you very much.
While we're here, why don't we bring up that little case?
I hope that I've